What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Huddle Necessary. That is right. It is the best time of the week here where we at Nuts and Bolts Sports get our guests to come up, talk about all of the latest things in football in the NFL world. Super excited. Have two guests making their debut on the show this week. Super excited about that. One quick note, I did mention that Zak would be on the show. Mr. Zak Noble had some parental duties that he had to take care of, so he won't be able to make it tonight. We'll make sure to have him on at some point in the future. But let's go ahead and bring in our other guests who are going to be joining us today. Mr. Randall Gimm, our resident coach. How you doing today, Mr. Randall?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Dom. I'm excited to be here.
Super happy to have you on. Excited to have you on. Can't wait to see what you're going to bring to the show. Mr. Joey, how are you doing today? Now, for those of you who don't know, I've been trying to get Joey on the show almost every week since we've started. Scheduling has kind of been a little iffy. We finally were able to get him nailed down, get him on the show. Super excited to have you today.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot. Really glad the stars are aligned for us this time, and glad to be back on the show, man. Can't wait. Let's go.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, we have our other resident father. That is Keith Richards. How you doing today, Keith? Glad to have you back on the show.
Good. I was just waiting for Joey. He wanted to.
Oh, did we lose Keith?
There we go.
There
we're back.
All there right, we go.
Back. We live out in the boonies. Your internet gets spotty sometimes.
Yeah. Hey, listen. I understand. But
you got that HughesNet.
Not that bad, but yeah.
All righty. Well, since we're all in here, everyone seems to be doing good. Everyone's in high spirits. I think we can go ahead and start talking about this stuff. So let's go ahead and get into the first quarter. All righty. So first quarter, first topic up. There was a game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Denver Broncos that was played. And those of you who don't know, the Ravens do one thing very well on the offensive side of the ball. That is run the ball. In fact, in this game, they tied an NFL record for 43 consecutive games rushing for over 100 yards. However, in order to do that, on the last 3 seconds of the game, where they were up by 16 points, they had Lamar Jackson go out on a little quarterback design run, picked up about 7 yards that they needed to get over 100. And head coach Vic Fangio for the Denver Broncos was not too keen of that play. And so there was a little bit of a war of words back and forth between Vic Fangio and John Harbaugh. Keith Richards, I'm going to start with you. Was what John Harbaugh did fair or foul running the ball with 3 seconds left?
Normally, I would say it's foul, and that's coming from a super petty person. And I say this from the bottom of my heart about Vic Fangio. He can shut the hell up. At that point in the game, it didn't matter. They had every opportunity to not give them the ball back for them to break that record. He may not know the exact stats of the game real time on the sideline. I'm sure someone in a booth know what the situation was. They were doing a good job stopping the run for most part of that game. And they decided to throw a pass and got it intercepted in the end zone right before the game ends. So really, he only has himself to blame on that. And speaking of the running game, he could have used a running game to eat up more clock like the Ravens did when they were averaging something like 6 yards a carry early in the game. And then they just completely abandoned the run game when they got down by like 7. And he wants to complain about someone breaking a record because his inability to be able to manage the clock and call timeouts properly. Like he has no ground to stand on, really. He knew John Harbaugh was probably going to go for that record. He know that they like to run the ball, to run the clock out. He can just shut up. I don't care. So yeah, do I think it's foul? Yes. But in this situation, he can just shut up because I don't care. It's on him.
So you do think it's foul, but not foul enough to the point where it makes you upset and that Vic Fangio needs to be speaking on it.
I'm more
Okay,
upset
I
that
can
Vic
live with that.
Fangio let it happen than them doing it. Like that's where I'm at. Like he had to know that they were going to try that. Don't give them the ball back. You can take a knee. You can run the ball out. Even if you go to fourth down and you have to put the punter back to just run the clock out, don't let him do it. He let him do it. He can't be mad at anyone.
And Fangio let them do it too. Like he knew that in the post-game conference, he said that they knew it was going to happen. They expected it from them. So then, to your point, why wouldn't he stop them? You know, he's just salty, and yeah, he doesn't need to shut the hell up. But if you're Baltimore, you definitely go for that record. You know, you want the recognition from your front office, from your fans, from the whole league that to know that you put a stamp on this league because of how dominant you were at that one thing, rushing. And, you know, I would do it 100 times over.
Joey, how about you?
Man, so here's what I want to bring to the table. So, in my opinion, when I saw the clip of him throwing the headset, I really don't think he was upset at the actual them running the ball for the play and to break the record. I really don't think that. I think he was screaming to get some alignment in, a defensive alignment, and that's what it looked like anyway from my standpoint. So I thought he was trying to get a coverage in or stop the play, and he was mad. He slammed down everything, slammed down the headset and all that stuff because it didn't stop the play. That's how I feel. Now, fast forward, now that they're all talking about it in the maybe on the way back to the locker room, in the locker room, now someone's like, hey man, I didn't like that. That's some BS. I think then when he got to the podium, it was starting a little marinate on him a little bit, and then that's how it all started to come out. If you ask me, just like as a guy on the outside looking in, it's already been dissected a bunch, and I thought I would do my own dissection, and that's kind of how I saw it. But one key fact I think that's on Baltimore's side is that was Pittsburgh's record. All right, that was Pittsburgh Steelers' record, so they were going to do it. And they're going to break it, and they can now rub that in Pittsburgh face. Like, there you go. This one more thing for us to show that there's a change in the tide in that division.
So that is a great point about that being the former Steeler record. That's a really great point that I think a lot of people probably would overlook. Anytime you can get a chance to one-up your division rival, especially what, in my opinion, is the most ferocious rivalry in all of football between the Steelers and the Ravens, you absolutely go for it. Randall, we got to hear your thoughts briefly. Go ahead and expound a little bit more. Fair or foul?
Definitely fair. Like I said, I would go for it 100 out of 100 times. And I understand Vic Fangio's points of being mad. I would be mad too. If I'm getting my ass kicked by 97-60 by the Golden State Warriors, and they're trying to keep a streak of 100 points in a game, and Steph Curry pulls a deep three and he makes it. Well, I could have forced him off the sideline. I could have done all this, but I'd still be salty. Just like when Lance Stevenson did it, and DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry tried to get into his face, or PJ Tucker rather. And yeah, sorry, that's just basketball. Me bringing it into my perspective and what I would do if I was in that situation. Never played a yard of football in my life, but I do coach it for some little kids, and I watch it very frequently. And yeah, I don't see it as too disrespectful in the NFL.
I think it's extremely disrespectful, but that's on them. Like, don't let him do it. Like, if he's mad about a defensive alignment, then whose fault is that? You're the head coach. You're this defensive guru. Make your team step up. Like, it's petty, but if you can't stop it, you can't complain about it.
So let me ask you all this,
Go ahead.
Because I think I think going for a record to me is never foul. Like going for NFL history to me is never foul. I will never, I'll never knock a team for trying to make history. But I almost think it's more foul what Vic Fangio said about the Ravens, basically, in that press conference where he was like, "Oh, well, that's how they are. They player health is second to them." That to me was out of bounds, especially from Vic Fangio, who's, by the way, has been on that Ravens coaching staff before, right? Like that to me was a very interesting point that he made. like I said, I do love John Harbaugh kind of getting back at him, talking about, you guys are still trying to act like you could win the game. I don't know about it. I don't know if there's a 16-point play that you can score, but interesting stuff. Like I said, I love when coaches are petty. These are the type of things, though, that I like to see, me personally.
He wants to talk about player safety when his starting quarterback got knocked out because the offensive line is terrible and has been terrible for like 10 years now. So,
Right.
Like I said, he can shut the hell up.
Shout out to my guy. Shout out to my guy, Teddy. I miss you. Come home whenever.
Eventually, hopefully, one day. We'll see what happens with Teddy. Maybe. All righty. Let's go ahead, move on to the second quarter. Alrighty, so I'm gonna, and I do this a little too often on this show, but I'm gonna pat myself on the back here because I was maybe a year early on the Arizona Cardinals bandwagon, but as of right now, the Cardinals are the only undefeated team left in the league. They just had a very impressive win over the Los Angeles Rams, who many people looked at and said they might be the best team in the NFL. I have to ask. It's early, right? We're only 4 weeks in. But are the Cardinals the best team in the league right now? Let's start with Mr. Joey. How do we feel about the Cardinals?
Absolutely. For now, right? For now, you're right. It's early. You're right. But let's peel back the onion a little bit, right? Let's look at the things that are working against the Arizona Cardinals from just the optics. Brand new coach Cliff Kingsbury. I think we're in year 3 with him. Sorry. But came from 5-7 Texas Tech every year. So everybody's like, he's never going to do anything with the Arizona Cardinals. Boom, moving forward. We draft this, 5'6", 5'8", 5'10" quarterback that is the fastest thing on the planet at times. But also now he can play quarterback. Look at him crushing it out there. The last year was definitely a warm up. Showed a lot of flashes in the pan, and a lot of people are calling them the most exciting team in the league. And I will not bet against that right now. They are a lot of fun to watch. Adding J.J. Watt, now they have veteran presence. Weapon after weapon after weapon. Adding AJ Green this year. Shout out rising from the dead. Can bring in unburying AJ Green. He's having a pretty decent year already. He's getting a bunch of targets, and they're really spreading the ball around. They lost Kenyon Drake to the Raiders, so the running game probably could use a little bit of work, but the passing game is there. They're putting up huge numbers, lead the league in points scored. And I think they're also leading in yardage as well. So they're just top of the charts in all the offensive categories. Most explosive team, most exciting team. Kyler Murray, like I said, everything working against them from a media standpoint and maybe a fan standpoint, right? Everybody's like, is Cliff Kingsbury going to work out? Boom, so far so good. Is Murray going to get starts? Last year? Is he going to come in? Is he going to kill it? Yes, the answer is yes. And now look at him. So to answer the question, the Arizona Cardinals are 100% the best team in the NFL as we sit here today on Wednesday.
Very good. I agree with that. Like I said, and I think the biggest thing for this team is the consistency, right? They had these flashes last year, but they would have those games where they would go out on Saturday Night Football and they would beat the Seahawks, and everyone was like, oh my goodness, they beat the Seahawks. But then the very next week they would lose to the Lions. They were kind of up and down. Now it seems like they're starting to figure out how to be consistent, and that becomes scary. Randall, how about you? Cardinals the best team in the league right now?
All the statistics point to that. They're leading in points and in yards each per game. And then their defense is holding their own too. The former head coach of the Chicago Bears, I believe Vance Joseph, helped build that defense in Denver. And built the reputation of what we know to be today. So it's no surprise that he's making an impact on the defensive end as well. But if my man, Greg Joseph, does not miss that field goal at the end of the Vikings game, they'd be 3-1, and still they have a great argument to be the best team in the league. But it would have had a blemish, and I think we would have had our doubts, and this conversation might not have been happening. Excuse me. And as well, the Vikings and the Rams have been their two toughest opponents so far. And, just for my sake, let's say they're 1-1, just like Sean O'Malley's undefeated, right? And now you're going to have 4 games in 18 days for them. That's a tough schedule. And then you get into even tougher opponents coming right out of that tough stretch. So they're going to be in for a strong, wild run. And I'm not sure if they're going to be able to guide through those wins, but hopefully their wings can stay wide and fly high. Let's see.
I think that is a good point about looking at them moving forward. Like I said, the 4 games in 18 days is tough. That's a really rough schedule moving forward. And like I said, the opponents are going to get tougher. And I do agree that the Rams kind of were their first test this year. They passed it. But that game against the Vikings, that looked like the old Cardinals. But I also think that last year that would have been a game that the Cardinals would have lost. Even though Joseph did miss the field goal, they still found a way to win it. But I definitely understand where you're coming from there. Keith, Cardinals?
I think right now they are the best team in the NFL. But I think it's important to say right now, as has been said just before, they have a really tough stretch of games coming that if they can make it out of that 4-game stretch at 500, I think that's a win for them. Yes, they are beating teams like the Rams, having those big wins, but now they're also beating teams that they're supposed to beat. And that is what is a difference for them this year. And offensively, they are arguably the best team in the league. They're 3rd in passing yards per game, 6th in rushing yards per game. They scored their most points, 35 points per game. The one thing I would caution is that they aren't bad on defense, but they still give up 21 points a game, which is just barely about top half of the league. I think defense is important, but in today's NFL, I don't think you need to have the best defense to win. You just want to stay in that top half of the league to do so. So in the long run, that could come to bite them when you're looking at maybe like a team like Buffalo, who's also scores over 30 points per game, but they only allow 11 points per game. And their point differential is almost double that of what the Cardinals is. So they definitely have something good going, but they can't get complacent. They got to keep their eye on the ball and continue to try to make that defense better.
Really good points. So I think we all kind of have the same consensus, is that they're the best team for right now. The jury is still out on them, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you still have the Bills who've only lost 1 game, which at this point we can just call that a fluke. Like, I don't know how they lost that one. The Chiefs are only 2-2, but you see that they are starting to get the pressure back on with their offense. And there's a bunch of other teams that are 3-1. I mean, if they're 4-0, you can only play who's in front of you. So I got to give them props for saying they've beaten everyone that's in front of them. But they're going to have some tougher games coming up. Teams are going to start to get better. Can they be that way for 13 more games?
All right. Their next opponent is one that we're going to talk about in the third quarter. But before we get to the third quarter, we're going to give these guys a quick moment to maybe use the restroom, get a water break, something like that. You at home, if you're watching, you can grab a couple snacks. We're going to take a quick halftime break here, then we'll come back, get into the third quarter. We might even actually have a couple things to get into right before the third quarter, getting a little extra content here on No Huddle Necessary this week. So I'm going to send you guys to the back real quick. You guys enjoy the break real quick. We'll be right back in about 1 minute.
The Team Nuts and Bolts Sports Store is officially open. log on to www.teamnbsmerch.com and get your t-shirts, hoodies, polos, all sizes available. Once again, log on to teamnbsmerch.com. Get yours today.
Alrighty, and we are back from our halftime break. Real quick there, make sure you all check out the other shows we got going on. Like I said, the Full Monty Show, the Nuts and Bolts Sports Draft Central will be coming back in February of next year. That'll be Jeff Barnes and Mr. Bill Carroll. Both of them know more about football than I could ever even begin to try and remember. But definitely check them out. They're going to be checking out all of the scouts and all of these prospects coming up for the NFL draft next year. So make sure you all check into that back in February. Now, third quarter's coming up here, but there was a lot of things that happened within the time frame from Monday when I sent out the topics to these guys to today. And I couldn't live with myself having us just waltz past them. So we're just going to have a brief open discussion here about some of the stuff that we've seen. First things first, the biggest news of today, obviously, is the Patriots first releasing Stephon Gilmore and then the Panthers coming in and swooping in and getting Stephon Gilmore for a 6th-round pick. What type of impact does that have for the Panthers? How do we feel about this move for the Patriots? Just open thoughts. Randall, we'll start with you, and then we'll go clockwise.
I saw a tweet from Mina Kimes that said, excuse me, that I've never heard one piece of information that the whole NFL could be upset at. And, you know, the rich get richer, the poor get more greedy, you know? And so the Carolina Panthers get richer with a new cornerback that I think he's injured right now, right? And he'll be coming back shortly. But once they get him back, they're going to be in full stride, and it's just going to be turnkey with him. And to get him for a 6th-round pick, you know, you just fleeced the whole league. But that's all I got. And he's locked out. Like, I was just watching his highlights. Man is insane. He's glue to these guys.
Yes. Mr. Joey, how do we feel about this move?
Yeah, I mean, is this a money move for the Patriots? You know what I mean? Like, not sure what their direction is on this, but heck of a move by Carolina because I think they're pushing some chips into the middle. You know what I mean? Currently sitting at 3-1. They got a solid foundation at quarterback with Sam Darnold now. He's playing all right. Yeah, I know their schedule hasn't been great, but like Keith said, you got B who's in front of you, and that's all that matters. Mm-hmm. So currently sitting at 3-1, and you know what I mean. They've got a division with the former last year's Super Bowl champs in it, so they're trying to come for blood on them. And you know what? There's been some the Tampa Bay is showing some weaknesses out there. In a few games, you know, Cowboys almost took them out. You know, New England, I don't know what's. Belichick gave that game away to Brady. Obviously, we'll probably talk about that in the fourth quarter. But, yeah, I like this move by Carolina for sure. Like, why wouldn't you try to shore up a corner on the defense when your things are looking up for your team sitting at 3-1? Yeah, this is no brainer for me. Great pickup. And who's going to get Jalen Smith now? Let's talk about that here in a second.
So it looks like the Packers actually signed Jalen Smith. He's going to be in Green Bay. Keith, how do we feel about the Panthers coming in and
honestly, I think it's a win-win for both teams. The Patriots get something when they're going to get nothing for him because they were just going to flat out release him, and it is a money situation. He's asking for $15 million a season. He's coming off an injury. I can't blame the Pats for not wanting to pay him that. They couldn't get a deal done, so instead of him just walking, they get a 6th-round pick out of the deal, which doesn't sound like much for 99% of the league, but you give the Patriots the 6th-round pick, I can guarantee they're going to get a star player out of that or trade up to a star player with that 6th-round pick from that. So good move out of Panthers to bolster their secondary, and then the Patriots just do what they do. They make something out of nothing as they continuously do. But I guarantee that they got a better offer than a 6th-round pick
That's what I
from
was about
other
to
teams
ask.
who needed him, but they're not going to trade him in the conference, and they're not going to trade him to a true contender team. So they probably could have got more, but they weren't going to make anyone that they see as their direct competition any better. So I think they did well with what they did.
I think that's a really good point, because for the Panthers, though, and this is assuming that they can re-sign him, and if they give him a contract, which I don't see why you wouldn't. The Panthers, man, J.C. Horn was looking incredible before his injury. The Panthers might have the best secondary in the league next year if both of those guys come back and are healthy. So for the Panthers, I think it's a great move for them. For the Patriots, like you said, Keith, a guy that you were going to cut just because it's the Patriot way. It's classic Bill Belichick. You want to get paid like a top corner. You're on the wrong side of 30. You are coming off of an injury. I'm not going to pay you $15 million a year. So we're going to release you. I guess we'll take a 6th-round pick from the Panthers because, like I said, the other option, I know for a fact, and I have a little conspiracy theory here. I have a genuine feeling that Bill Belichick only took this trade because he had, literally was waking up in a deep sweat, worried that Stephon Gilmore was going to go be released and sign with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he just was like, absolutely not. I'm sick. I'm not seeing another one of my guys go down there to win another championship without me.
And there were reports that the Packers almost actually did get it done, but they did not want to commit to re-signing him to an extended deal. The Panthers did. So that they could have had him, but they didn't want to commit, which I don't blame them either. I mean, he's not young. You don't know what he's going to be like coming off an injury. But if it works out for the Panthers, it'll be a great trade for them. We'll just have to see how he looks after that injury.
Mm-hmm. And then one more thing I want to talk about here. We got to talk about Urban Meyer. Now, I came out early and said I don't think that Urban was going to be the right fit in Jacksonville. I didn't think it would be this bad this early. I mean, the only situation that I can think of that was worse than this was Petrino leaving the note in the Atlanta Falcons locker room so he could go woo pig suey, right? That's the only other situation that I can think of that's worse than this right now. When you have the owner coming out and saying that he has to earn the respect from this team again. And then also Urban Meyer, and I tweeted this out earlier today. Urban Meyer basically was like, yeah, it's on the leaders of this team and the players to rebuild the trust. And I was sitting there like, as the head coach, are you not a leader? So if you're not doing that job, what are you getting paid to do at this point? How do we feel about Urban Meyer? And do we think he lasts till the end of the season?
Hey man, side chicks need love too, and he's just trying to do what he can. But I said when he was signed, and then it became apparent that they were going to draft Trevor Lawrence, that he is merely a transition coach to ease Trevor Lawrence into the NFL, and then he'll be gone in 3 years max. He sped up that timeline by doing his little deed, but I don't think they ever planned for him to truly be their long-term coach. I don't care what the deal says. I don't think they truly planned for him to be an NFL coach for that long.
Man,
Anyone else?
Train wreck city. train wreck city. The tweet, the laundry list. Have you guys seen that tweet? The laundry list of all the things that have gone wrong in like the last couple months.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, like honestly, like what do I know about being an NFL coach or a culture? So like obviously, I didn't really think it was a good idea, but you never know. Like maybe it could work. Blah blah blah. We'll try it. We'll see what happens. Like you never know. Track record is pretty good in college, but man, there's so much to talk about. There's so much content. There's so much content in this situation, and I won't even go into the dirty business. I'll just like look at that press conference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this dude is looking down. He's deflated.
You look dingy too.
I'm just wondering how they thought this was a good idea at this point. Like, why don't you give the dude a minute to decompress? Why don't you give him a minute to like address the players? I know they kind of did it. It was right after. I think the press conference was right after addressing the players and all that. But like, I know it's easier said than done. But it was really hard for me to watch this dude. Yes, leader of a football team, leader of an NFL football team of gladiators and men that are, he's trying to right the ship and a team that has lost 19 straight games. So you're talking about culture, you're talking about holding people accountable, and just like each one of these is a dagger into, just into your own pool of garbage and spewing it all out. It's all coach talk and all coach speak. And it's just really hard to watch, man. I was chatting with some friends today doing the water cooler thing, and I don't know how long they can do it. But there's a very small part of me that thinks he will make it to the end of the season, because unless they're about like 0-10, 0-12, then I think you really got to let it go, because it's done at that point, right? It's a flat tire. But I think that if they figure it out, and the ship gets righted and things get ironed out inside a locker room, and they're laughing at him like it's a mess. But if he wins a couple games, I think there's going to be a little bit of momentum, and you're not going to want to just trash it. That's just how I just think NFL, I don't think you can let this guy go in 1 year. I just don't. I know he's not doing that well. I know what the situation looks like, but who else are you going to get in there? You're 5 more years from building right now. At least you can get something going this year and improve and improve and improve. And maybe it's a 3-year plan. But if they cut him and they bring somebody else in, who's going to want to go down there too? They're going to have number 1 pick. That would be nice. But it's not a good situation for anybody. And if they let Urban go, they're failing the players again, because they're just going to bring somebody in, new coach speak, new stuff, new scheme, new everything for Trevor Lawrence. I don't know, man. It's just hard. It's just really hard. And there's not a bad decision. Get rid of him. Good idea. Keep him. There's at least some positivity there, right? There's some pros and cons to this. And I don't want to be Shad Khan right now. That's for sure.
Randall, how you feel about it?
Urban Meyer kind of reminds me of myself in high school when I was coasting, I was in the regular classes, getting A's, B pluses, talking to the girls, still messing around with my friends, throwing paper wads and stuff. And then I get into advanced classes because teachers think I need a challenge. And then boom, I get slapped in the face. And it's like, no, send me back. And that's what I'm seeing here. We didn't even mention that Urban being at the bar was where he chose to be instead of being on the team plane.
Mm-hmm.
Team plane, you got everybody in the same room. They have to listen to you. You got to talk to them and try to speak them up and figure out what you're going to do for next week, right? You haven't won a game. So you have to figure that out. And I've been doing some research on how to, get my mind right and try to, put myself in a better position, because I just want to achieve great things in life, right?
Right.
And a great quote was, put what matters first. Say yes to what matters. Say no to what gets in the way of what matters, right? And Urban Meyer did the exact opposite. He's supposed to be a leader of men, people, like you said, Joey, gladiators, dudes that are risking their lives. And if you can't trust the person that, that is trying to lead you into battle, you're not going to risk your life for that man. And so this is just a garbage year. This is probably going to be some stories that they'll tell their new head coach when everything's all nice and dandy. Like, man, I can't believe that time with Urban Meyer, you know? So that's how I see it. I could be wrong, but where there's smoke, there's fire.
He didn't want to be on that team plane. He had like that 6 tequila face. It was like he was done.
That's a crazy thing too.
He still looked hungover. That's the first thing I said. The first thing I said in that news conference, I was like, he's still faded. Like, he's still recovering. Like,
on a bender.
Down. It looks like he just got done throwing up. Like, that dude is a mess.
Oh, man.
Urban Meyer doesn't even look like he wants to be the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars anymore. I don't think that organization wants him to be. I doubt he'll be there much longer. But let's go ahead, get into this third quarter. Alrighty, so we talked about the Cardinals in the second quarter. Their opponent this week is the 49ers. And the 49ers are in a bit of an interesting situation. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo got injured once again. What else is new? Trey Lance came in, started the second half last week. And Trey Lance has had moments where, he's looked like a rookie who didn't play a whole bunch in college. And then he's had moments where he looks extremely dynamic. Now, after this week, the 49ers have a bye week. I am of the mindset that this is a really good chance for you to probably start the Trey Lance era, a la what Chicago did with Justin Fields, even though I feel like Matt Nagy was forced to start Justin Fields because you have to force Matt Nagy to do the right thing because he won't do it on his own. But am I wrong here? Should Shanahan pull the trigger on starting the Trey Lance era right now? Or do you still finish riding out this season with Jimmy and giving him his kind of last hoorah year this season? Randall, we'll start with you.
So it all depends on Jimmy G's health, right? If he's healthy, he's obviously the more seasoned quarterback. He's gotten you to a Super Bowl, and he's just the best person for the job, technically, right? But if he's not healthy, he's not 100%, I think you need to keep that in mind, and you might have to put him on the back burner, let him heal up, and then it's a perfect opportunity to get Trey Lance in there. Let the rookie get his feet wet, and then in the meantime, you're killing two birds with one stone while you let Jimmy G heal up, and then you could even bring him back, give the rookie a little bit of time, send him back, get the man that can do the job in, and then boost his value, trade him, get more assets around Trey Lance. I took a look at the roster and the depth chart of the 49ers, and of the first stringers, 6 out of 10 of them are young guys, under 5 years in the league. So if it's a perfect time to have those older veterans teach those young guys, and I think it's definitely a move that you want to make if Garoppolo is not 100%. But if he's 100%, keep the man at the helm and let him run the ship.
All right. Randall saying start Trey Lance if Jimmy is still banged up, but if Jimmy's healthy, let him keep rolling. Keith, how about you?
I have to agree with that sentiment as well. I think the only reason you say moving forward Trey Lance is your starter for the rest of the season is if you think Jimmy G is going to be hurt for the rest of the season or not healthy for the rest of the season. I think that it's a common mistake made way too often with so many rookie quarterbacks coming out of college, especially one like Trey Lance, who did not play that much in college, and didn't play for somewhere like Alabama with Mac Jones, who played in a more NFL-style system at Alabama than Trey Lance did where he went to college. I think there's 2 conditions where you go with Trey Lance. If Jimmy G's healthy, and if you 100% absolutely think he is, without question, your best chance to win games and make it to the playoffs. And I don't know if you can say that about him just yet. I'm sure they'll sell more tickets. They'll have more exciting plays if Trey Lance is in that quarterback. But if you're looking out for the future of your team, the struggles that he would have this season in his rookie season if he's a full-time starter can almost be more of a hindrance than there is just getting his feet wet. I mean, look what they did to my man Drew Lock here in Denver. He had a lot of potential when he first started, but they've completely destroyed that man because the offense has been so bad. Like, his psyche's gone. They did it with Trevor Siemian as well. You don't want to do that to a talent like Trey Lance. And that's not a guarantee that that will happen, but why risk it happening when you have someone like Jimmy G who slightly overrated, but he did get you to a Super Bowl. There's just no good reason yet outside of making money to start Trey Lance. And I don't think they should unless they have to.
Had no idea we were going to get a Trevor Siemian reference on today's show. That's a great callback, Keith. Joey, how do we feel? Should they start the Trey Lance era, or should they stick with Jimmy for the rest of the season?
Let me throw a shout out to Keith real quick on those name drops right there. And no, you brought something back to my forefront too, man. Like, I forgot that those guys are like consecutive quarterbacks in Denver. You know what I mean? And even if you throw Osweiler in there too, like, it was a really bad period for Denver, man. So I'm sorry you had to go through that. But no, I don't know, man. I don't know. You know, this is Jimmy G. Let me get my hand in the Trey Lance. They're both not solid options at this moment. Poor Jimmy G, man. Is that dude made of glass or what? Like, him and Carson Wentz, it's like every time they get tackled, it's like, oh, my elbow, my shoulder, my calf muscle. He looked fine in that game. He looked fine. He looked like he was doing all right. The next thing you know, he's standing on the sideline with a clipboard, like, oh, my calf. And now he's going to be out multiple weeks. I understand the calf muscle is a very tedious injury and whatnot. But now over to Trey Lance, man. Like, I try to watch with very, very forgivable eyes, because that's I haven't been able to see him. Right? I don't watch 49ers much, but I just haven't really got eyes on him yet. And so I saw that he was in. I objectively watched the game, and I was like, this is not good. This guy does not look good. But obviously, he hasn't gotten the reps, and he's coming from North Dakota State. He's a lot bigger than I thought he was, though. He looks good on screen. He's got good legs. He has some good runs. But some of those throws were absolutely terrible, and they were not out of the game when he was in. And he definitely showed some promise. Obviously they got that nice pass over to Debo, wide open, not anybody for a mile next to him. But if you take that play away, that turns into a possible blowout. And what do we talk about now? But like Keith hit it on the head right there, the psyche of the player. Like, you can't just throw him in there. You cannot, because you got some cherry games when they come back from the break. They're gonna play the Colts, and then they're gonna get the Bears, and they're gonna be back with the Cardinals and Rams back to back after that. So let's say he gets 2 good games, he's gonna get punched in the mouth with Aaron Donald and J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones like very quickly right after that. But some positive notes for the Niners, though, is they still got that good defense. Like, Bosa's back. Warren is playing lights out. Frank Warner. That dude looked good. The defense looks really good and has been keeping them in games, even though they're at 2-2. I think it's a consensus that if Jimmy G's healthy, you've got to put Jimmy G out there. But I know a lot of Niner fans, and they are just like, what the heck, man? Like, we can't get out of our own way with holding on to Jimmy G, paying him, and then taking a massive leap of faith with Trey Lance in the top 10 pick. To hoping that he's going to, if Jimmy G gets hurt, that's your guy. He's not Justin Fields. He's not Mac Jones. The only positive situation that Trey Lance could possibly be is that he has a really, really nice defense behind him that might get him the ball back a lot more than some of those other defenses. So, Jimmy G rolls out, but he's going to get hurt again. Seriously, that calf is going to heal up. He's going to come back. He's going to play the Rams and the Cardinals. Cardinals back to back. I don't know, man. Poor Niners. They had a lot of promise. They're obviously not all the way out of it, but that division is loaded. So good luck, Niner gang.
Yeah, the NFC West, best division in all of football. I'm surprised that you all are kind of on the same thought wave as I am with this, for the most part, about Jimmy G. And Monty, you saw some of his responses there. This is one of the rare situations where I think you need to sit the young guy, right? Like, Trey Lance has so much raw talent, but we saw, like, he didn't play a lot in college, right? Like, the last time we saw him in college, he played one game out of the season and that was supposed to just kind of be like a showcase game because of COVID, right? So we just haven't seen a lot out of him. And I thought coming out of the draft, like I said, he has a ton of raw talent, but he's probably the one guy out of all of the quarterbacks that were drafted last year where I said he's the one who needs to sit the most. And I also think that with the 49ers, you have a quarterback who will develop him or a head coach who will develop him in Kyle Shanahan. And you also have a good quarterback there to hold it down. Like, regardless of what people want to say about Jimmy Garoppolo, right? When Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy, the San Francisco 49ers win. That's just a fact, right? The only times they've had losing seasons is when he hasn't been there, right? They traded for him, he became the starter, and then they won like 7 games in a row. So as much as people, like, I think in this microwave society, especially, like, we want instant gratification, we want, an immediate return on our investment. Let Trey actually learn. He's one of the few guys that I think and is in the perfect situation to sit for a year, and then next year you give him the keys. I think they still need to let it rock with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's earned that respect, and he's earned that chance from this team to be like, hey, let me rock it out one more year here if I'm going to be healthy and see just how far I can take this team before you all kick me to the curb for the young guy.
Yeah, and I say he's overrated. I don't necessarily mean that as a slight. I mean that in the sense of he came from the Tom Brady, Josh McDaniels system with a lot of promise coming out of that. And injuries aside, he still hasn't really lived up to that height.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's hard to when you're hurt 8 games out of the year, but I don't think he's going to be the quarterback that people thought he was going to be. But even with the Cardinals at 4-0, they're not out of the race of winning that division. They're still 2-2.
Absolutely.
And I think if you just want to start Trey Lance, then you can kiss winning that division goodbye. Not that they have a great chance now, but I think Jimmy G gives them a better chance of winning the division.
Listen, Jimmy G is a third-tier quarterback, right? Like I said, Keith, you know my ranking system. Randall, Joey, I don't know if you guys have heard me before, but when it comes to ranking players, I feel like there's 5 tiers of players, right? There's tier 1 is your elites, tier 2 are your greats, tier 3 are your really good, above average, tier 4 is your basic average starter, and then tier 5 is everybody else. Jimmy's a tier 3. He's above average. He's pretty good. But is he great? Is he elite? No. He's Randall, to mention your team, he's kind of like Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins is holding his own this year. He's doing pretty good this year.
Exactly.
Top 5 QB this year.
I'm on. It's him and Carson Wentz, man. Them and Carson Wentz. Like, when those guys are in the game, they're very, very valuable assets and good quarterbacks at their positions.
Yeah.
And where they're just struck really hard by the injury bug, and it's too bad. But it's also starting to become kind of comical, right? And that's why we're talking about it. That's why the pundits are talking about it. That's why nobody has faith in those franchises, so to speak, because they're just like, okay, when Jimmy G gets hurt, you throw Trey Lance in. Carson Wentz gets hurt. I don't even know who goes in for them right now. You know what I mean?
Sam Ellinger.
There you go. Like, what? So it's just that kind of situation, and it's too bad that those guys don't have a little better of a backup plan. But I know that. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a tough situation. But I don't like what Keith said. You can't throw him in there, man. You're throwing him to the Wolves, and you want to go 2-15, and get the second pick after the Jags, that's up to you. Go ahead. And then
Speaking of Carson Wentz, how do you sprain both ankles at the same time? I jumped off a 2-story building and I didn't sprain both my ankles at the same time.
I think the funniest quote I saw someone when speaking about the Carson Wentz situation, they said that Carson Wentz has 2 sprained ankles, which is the most you can possibly have. And I thought that was very funny. You can't have more than 2
by the
sprained
way, BTW, by the way.
Yeah, by the way. It's
you can't have 3 sprained ankles.
Right.
And if he could, he would.
Exactly. But like I said, I think I'm surprised that we're all kind of on the same page there. But ladies and gentlemen, it's that time. Throw up your 4s because it's time for the fourth quarter. Alrighty. So, in what was probably the most anticipated game I can remember in my lifetime, I'm 24 years old. I don't think I can remember a time where there was a game, especially a regular season game, that was this anticipated. And that, of course, was the return of Tom Brady to Foxborough, taking on Bill Belichick. A game that was a little ugly, low scoring. Buccaneers pulled it out on a field goal at the end of the game, won it 19-16. Obviously, and I think I love New England's response. When Tom Brady first came out on the field, when they were announcing, nothing but cheers. It was all love. Once the game started, though, they were booing the hell out of Tom. And it was like, hey, listen, Tom, we love you, guy, but we still want the Patriots to win. So, with that being said, what were you all's biggest takeaways from this game, right? There was a lot of emotions. You know, Bill Belichick going in and talking to Tom 20 minutes after the game in the locker room. Keith, what was your biggest takeaway from Patriots versus Bucks?
I had 2 big takeaways. Number one, it is very apparent that they made the right decision with going with Mac Jones over Cam Newton. It's no secret, I'm not a huge Cam Newton fan. A lot of people think that the team would be in a better position to win than if they had Cam Newton playing over Mac Jones. I 100% disagree with that. Last night, he passed for 275 yards. He did have the 1 interception, but he's a rookie. You can expect that. He also threw for 2 touchdowns, and he's currently the only rookie quarterback in NFL.com's top 10 rookie ranking. Even if Justin Fields was starting, even if Trey Lance was starting, I think that would still be the case. Justin Fields is running for his life all game, so I don't think he's going to look great. Yeah, Mac Jones benefits from being in a better situation with the Patriots, but you still have to make the passes, and he's still making the passes, which is more to the second point, is that I think they found finally, their replacement for Tom Brady. If you look at how Mac Jones has looked this season, he hasn't looked bad. I mean, he hasn't looked like he's going to be the next Tom Brady at this point. I don't think anyone coming out of the draft said he would be, because there never is going to be another Tom Brady. But can he be a person that leads them into the playoffs, and not just into the playoffs, but deep into the playoffs, getting back to Super Bowls and AFC championships? He can be if they continue to build around him. He's playing well with his number 1 receivers being Jacoby Myers and Nelson Aguilar. They don't have anything around him, and he's still making it work. I mean, people forget that he did win a national championship at Alabama. Even if he did have Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith, like, people don't give Mahomes a hard time for having Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. So why should he be given flack for the good players that he had on his team? And he still completed over 75% of his passes, threw for 41 touchdowns, and had over 4,500 yards passing. I think he is probably easily the most underrated quarterback coming out of this draft. There's quarterbacks that have higher ceilings than he does, but I think he is going to be the most consistent pro and might end up just having the most success just from where he is in New England. And eventually they will build a team around him.
All right. Joey, what was your biggest takeaways from Patriots versus Bucks?
You mean that 30 for 30? You mean that 30 for 30 that they showed me? Whatever that was? What if I told you that a man would lead New England? Man, there was so much stuff leading up to that. But no, my biggest takeaway for sure. And I really enjoyed the game. I'm glad it was kind of low scoring, so you could kind of pick at both teams a little bit. You know what I mean? I liked it. And then you could kind of see the gears turning on both coaching staffs, what's going to happen. So I actually really enjoyed the game. And I thought it was it kind of stumbled and bumbled at the front end for sure. But I think that was like the first round of a boxing match, man. Just feeling each other out. Who's going to do what? No, I think my biggest takeaway was Mac Jones's poise. Definitely. And so like Keith already crushed it with a bunch of really good points there. So I won't even double tap any of those. But yeah, great decision on putting him in there. A lot of people scoffed at that, but we saw what New England did with Cam Newton last year. So they got to make a decision. They had to make a tough decision, and they made the right choice. But no, I think with all that was going on, and that just it also goes to show you that coaching staff is still has a lot of things figured out. Josh McDaniels has Mac Jones ready to play every week. He does look like a rookie, but he doesn't look like he's extremely overwhelmed. He doesn't look like he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't look like he's in a blur and everything's moving too quickly for him. And that really impressed me. Because he wasn't a lauded quarterback coming out. Obviously, it was kind of a surprise at how where he went in the draft. Not a lot of people had him and kind of high, but there was also a lot of people like, no, there's just better options. And so yeah, I think kudos to him. Seriously, kudos to him for playing a pretty good game, keeping them in that game the whole time, and then almost nearly pulling that out. And Bill Belichick, what are you doing, dude? Why are you not going for that? You're gonna let Nick Folk, long in the tooth, saber tooth, wildcat, Nick Folk, Arizona guy, so he's my guy. You're going to let him go out there for a 56-yarder in that weather? I was just like, are you just going to give it to him on a silver platter? And then you're going to go in the locker room and chat with him for 30 minutes afterwards? Come on, dude. Get the 30-30. Wrap it up. Wrap up the 30-30. I'm over it already.
So I'm seeing a little bit of a trend, though. I like what Joey was saying there, but I am seeing a trend. There was a lot of people, it seems like a lot of people were impressed with Mac Jones. Randall, what were your biggest takeaways from this game?
Well, I'm pretty much convinced Bill Belichick has the power to control the weather and knew it was going to be raining on Sunday and told Mac Jones to hold on to a football in the shower so that he could be ready, because it looked like he'd been practicing in the rain all week. He'd find a wide open man right in front of him when nothing else was given up in the secondary. And, like you said, Joey, he showed great poise and he didn't look rattled at all. He was very calm, very collected, and made all the right decisions. And Tampa Tom hasn't been in Foxborough weather a long time. He's kind of thawed out down there. And I'm sure that kind of got to him a little bit. It was his lowest completion percentage and his lowest yards thrown, even though he still threw 269 yards. But I think everybody was trying to figure out what was going to happen in this game. Is Belichick the brains, or is it Brady with the brawn? Everybody involved knew what was going to happen and expected what was going to happen from one another, I think. Tom Brady his throws are extremely similar to what he did in Foxborough. And you don't think Bill Belichick knows that? So it really just comes down to trying to stop the run, and the Patriots couldn't do that while trying to make it a no-fly zone for Tom Brady. So Fournette and Jones really held it down and really saved Brady's ass at the end of the day, because he wasn't able to find the end zone. And it was a great game overall, but I think they knew that was going to happen, both sides.
So does anyone, and granted it's Bill Belichick, so nothing is a moral victory for him, but does anyone think that Bill walked away from this game, even though the Bucs won, feeling a little good about himself, that like it's probably the worst game Tom Brady's going to play this entire season, and he played it against us? Anyone else feel that Bill's taking a little bit of pride in that?
No, because he's not a human capable of emotions.
There you go. Good answer, Keith. Great
But-
answer.
I think, if anything, after he went back and watched film again, he's probably kicking himself, realizing that he should have went for it on that fourth down and not try to kick a 57-yard field goal in the rain. Because, I mean, Mac Jones was driving him in tight spots all game. Like, give him a chance. Like, don't put that on a kicker in that weather situation.
Yes, I agree. Any last words before we get to the fun part?
I think
No, sir.
no, I feel like no, like I know I already kind of elaborated on it with Mac Jones, but if I'm Mac Jones, I'm like, hell yeah, I've arrived. I'm in the league. I almost took out TB. Like, I'm dead serious, man. I think each week that dude is getting mentally stronger and mentally, figuring things out little by little. And kudos to that coaching staff because it's been a long time since there's been a long time since there's anybody else taking snaps over there. And it's been definitely a long time since somebody was in their 20s taking snaps, because when it wasn't Brady, it was, Brian Hoyer or, insert super roaming veteran here every time Brady couldn't go after the Garoppolo years, of course. But, yeah, I think I think it was a coming out party for Mac Jones. He didn't blow the doors off anything, but who gave them a chance in that game? Nobody. Come on, let's be real. Everybody, Tampa's been hot for a year plus now, and maybe they didn't think that he was going to blow out the old, the old ball coach Belichick, but I don't think anybody thought that they were going to go up there and take an L. Come on. So no, to keep it close and literally lose by a field goal by a few inches, that's a huge, huge win for at least the psyche of Mac Jones.
Shout out
And
Judon,
with that-
too. Judon was rushing Tom Brady all game and was making it real tough on not only rushing the passer, but stopping their run game, too, a little bit, but not enough, like I mentioned. That dude's a stud, for sure.
Back.
Absolutely. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the fourth quarter. So it's time to announce a winner. And with announcing a winner, we also have to send one of our first guests to the back. Once again, if you ain't first, you're last. So if you get sent to the back today, first at least, doesn't mean that you were last. It just means you weren't first. And with that being said, we are going to say bye to Mr. Randall. Mr. Randall Gimm. Coach Gimm, you were amazing today. Awesome having you on. I sincerely hope we have you back. Just wasn't good enough to get the W today, but you put up a really hell of a good fight today.
Thank you, sir. I'll take third as a rookie debut. I'm not worried about it. I appreciate the facts that you all were spitting, and I don't even deserve to be up here, man. I really appreciate working with y'all, and you guys really learned me today.
Hey, listen, you absolutely deserve to be up here. Like I said, you held your own. We're going to go ahead and send Mr. Gimm to the back. And then there were two. We have Joey and Keith. Both of you put up great arguments today. Like I said, this was very close. The entire show, all of you were neck and neck. But in today's episode of No Huddle Necessary, Joey, you actually got the win. So we are going to send Mr. Keith Richards to the back. Keith, still hunting. We'll get you back on eventually to get you that W. But Mr. Joey, congrats on the win. You, sir, get FaceTime. You deserve it. The floor is yours.
Thanks, big dog. Hey, man, you know what? It's been a fantastic start to the season already. We've already elaborated on some of the teams that have been exciting, but I'm going to drop a couple teams that have really impressed me the most this year. And there's 5 teams. It's 5 teams, and from bottom to top. So number 5, the most impressive team this year to me. Sorry, the 5th best most impressive team has been Las Vegas Raiders. I think they had a shot to keep the undefeated going. but they ran into a buzzsaw of the Chargers. More on them in a minute. But yeah, Raiders are looking good. I like the way they started the season. I like how they're taking it to teams, especially that 3-game winning streak against teams that were in the playoffs or had 10 wins last year. Very impressive. Go Raiders. Dallas resurrected a little bit. Dallas is looking pretty solid when, especially in the offensive front, throwing the ball around, letting Zeke eat for sure. Pretty impressive wins on their season so far. So Dallas is my 4th impressive team this year. Number 3, Cincy, the Bungles. The Bungles are back. Put Joe Burrow in. Let him cook. Let him eat. Let him throw the ball around to his boy Jamar Chase. That's a fun team to watch. Super young, super raw, young coaching staff. Like, that might be the Rams here in a couple years. Watch out. You heard it here first. The second most impressive team, and maybe even a tie, but I'm going to just put them in number 2, and that's the Chargers. The Bolts, man. I wish they would get some more love in LA, but it's just not going to happen. But a lot of good things going on. Coach Staley's got going on there. Herbert, massive home run on that pick. A lot of people weren't talking about that as well. They were kind of iffy on it. Well, there was people talking about it high, and there's people talking about it low. But huge pickup for him. They let him knock the edges off last year a little bit. They showed a lot of signs of life last year, but just kind of hovered around 500. And this year, those dudes are legit, and they are ready to go, and they're a lot of fun to watch. But my number 1 team's got to be the Cardinals. I am from Arizona. I am from Tucson, and if you knew a little bit more about me and the games that I used to watch when I was a kid, watching the 2-12, 2-14 Cardinals every year, Tom Tupa. This is before Jake Plummer. These guys were so bad playing in Sun Devil Stadium. That's a college venue with bleachers in 115-degree heat in September and October. Like, the Cardinals have been so bad. So I said this was an impressive list, and that's who's impressing me the most. The Cardinals 4-0, good free agent pickups. J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones on the side, good defense, tons of offensive weapons, good coaching staff. Well, it's actually panned out now, right? Kirk Kingsbury, but yeah, Cardinals are number 1, and I hope they keep it moving because they look legit and look like a lot of fun to watch.
All righty. Let's get this. There we go. That's much better. All right. I think we might have lost Randall. I don't know. He might have dropped out on us, but just wanted to bring you guys in. Thank you all so much for being on the show again. It is always a pleasure doing this with you guys. You guys are always amazing. Yeah, I can't sing you all's praises enough. Great show, great performance. Keith, let the people know where they can find you at and what you got going on.
Right there, 5280 Keith. That's where I do most of my work. Come join us on Sundays. We usually have an NFL thread going. That's a lot of fun. A little heated at times, but we're all respectful.
All righty. Well, once again, thank you for being on the show. Keith, I'm sure we will have you back on at some point in the future. We're going to get you your first W at some point, I promise.
I got to get that Jordan 6 win. That's the hardest one.
Of course, that's the hardest one. It's eluding you, but you are destined to reach it at some point. All righty. But we're going to go ahead, say bye to Keith. Thank you for joining the show, sir. Let me try that again. All righty. And Joey, you got your first W on your debut. How does it feel?
Feels good, man. I appreciate you bringing me on, and there's nothing more that I like talking about sports, and football is the best season of the year for sure. And man, like I said, there's a lot of content right now, so this stuff should be easy for us right now, right? It's selling itself and it's talking itself. So no, I really enjoyed it, man. I love Keith. I've been on the show with him a couple times before too, so really enjoyed it. And thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Let the people know where they can follow you and what you got going on as far as other things you're doing.
All right. Yeah, you can find me at the Real Joey Q34. My Twitter is just sports. So if you want to talk about something else or read about something else, you might see a little bit of what's going on in my personal life and whatnot. But most of the time, it's going to be hot takes on baseball. San Diego Padres fan, so I'm in a hole right now, burying my head. I'm very sour. But also tons of tweets on college football and obviously whatever's going on in the NFL. So if you want to talk sports, if you want to see how I feel on some certain things, follow the real Joey Q34.
All righty, sir. Thank you for being on the show. Like I said, it is always a pleasure. Hope to have you on in the future.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot, brother.
Yep. All righty. And like I said, it looks like I think Randall might have dropped out here. I'm not sure, but make sure you all go follow him, Coach Gimm, at Randall Gimm. You can follow him there, or like I said, at Coach Gimm on Twitter. He's super into the basketball world. That's more his forte. He was just coming and mixing it up with us. He did a great job today. Super excited to have him on. Was thankful that he joined the show. But make sure you all give him a follow. And once again, this has been the No Huddle Necessary show. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to all of the guests that came on. Like I said, you guys are what makes the show great. So can't sing you all's praises enough. And thank you all so much for watching. And of course, make sure you all check us out next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every Wednesday for the rest of the season. No Huddle Necessary will be taking place. And I will see you all next time. Peace.